Good news, you've recorded some footage and you want to turn it into a video that looks like this. Here's the best way to do it from start to finish. Okay, here's all the stuff that you need. First of all, a camera. Obviously, we need footage, but it doesn't even have to be an action camera. It can be any DSLR, it can be your cell phone, it can be whatever, and that's the beauty of my workflow, but more on that in a little bit. You will also need a device with GPS, and that has the ability to connect all of your external devices. Now, that usually comes in the form of a cycling computer like this, but it can also be your cell phone. So the point is it has to have GPS, it has to have the ability to connect via Bluetooth or ANT+ to the external devices. Speaking of external devices, anything that you want to show on screen, like power, is going to require a power meter. These happen to be power pedals. If you want heart rate, you're going to need some type of watch that shows that, or a heart rate strap like this one. And then GPS, although it technically does give you speed, it's not very accurate. So I also like to slap one of these onto my hub, which is a dedicated speedometer, giving you much more accurate speed readings. And then finally, we have to put all this together somehow, and that's going to require some type of computer. So one of the first problems you are undoubtedly going to run into is the fact that modern action cameras record in 8K resolution. This is great, don't get me wrong, but it takes up like 10 times the hard drive space compared to just a few years ago. And computer hard drives have not kept up. Neither have those cloud storage solutions. So you will run out of space on your computer, and if you care like I do about preserving the high quality originals, you'll end up with a stack full of hard drives and you'll have no idea which one has the footage that you're looking for. So what I finally did, and kind of wish I did sooner to be honest, was buy a network attached storage device. That's a NAS storage device. It just makes my life so much simpler. Even outside of cycling videos, it backs up the computers, the security cameras, even the phones in our house, so we don't have to worry about storage space anymore. Go absolutely crazy with the iPhone photos and videos. As an added benefit for me, my editor connects directly to the NAS, so we can collaborate on projects together as if we're working in the same room almost, even though he lives out of town. And look, the one I got, totally overkill for most people, but they do have much smaller, cheaper versions. This is the one I got for my brother and his family that they're totally stoked on. A lot of the same features. Plus, I selfishly back up photos and videos from my house to his house. He does the same, so just to make sure we don't have any lost data. No monthly fees, everything's backed up and redundant, even if a drive fails. As you can probably tell, I'm very excited about this tech. I could go on and on, but let's actually talk about how to make videos. I did skip a step really fast. The cameras I use, the settings I use, the way I mount them to my bike, that sort of thing. That's all been covered in its own video, which I'll link here or in the description or somewhere in case you're curious about that. Okay, so you have your video file. The first thing you want to do is create another video file that has all of those gauges with the power and the speed and the map and the heart rate and all that stuff. And yes, all these years later, I'm still using Dashware. Drop a comment with your favorite alternative. I know there's a bunch of better options out there. I'm just kind of stuck with Dashware at the moment because I've built the templates and I've built a workflow, which you'll see in a second, and it's like the devil you know sort of thing. So actually, let's open Dashware. I'll show you an example of exactly how I do it. All right, so we're in Dashware now. Realize I had to go over to my PC because it doesn't work on my MacBook. It's such an old piece of software. It only works on PC. Again, please let me know an alternative. You guys help me out. But here's my process. I open a project that I've done before, and I go to like the most recent one. And you'll see a familiar site here if you guys have seen my videos. Let's talk about each of these. These are all gauges. So this one is showing power. Let's open another one actually that shows an Alviso. How about that? Okay, so each of these gauges we can manipulate. You can see them all right here in the project gauges. We have power, we have heart rate, we have a map, we have speed both in miles and kilometers per hour, and we have our cadence in RPMs. Now, this is why I'm kind of locked in, is because I've already created all these things. It's a look that I like. And the one good thing I'll say about Dashware is it is fully customizable. Like if I want to change, for example, the power, I can change the font. I can rearrange this logo. I can show how quickly in the color grading that this bar for power is represented. Like I can manipulate everything. That's what I like about it. But if you're just getting started out, you can just come through here, and then you can choose any of these stock gauges, and then you can manipulate it. That's how I've created mine. And the way that you do that is you just double click the gauge, and then you come in here and you can manipulate all of these like I was just showing. And be sure to click save gauge when you're done. Okay, so that's where we're at. The important thing here is this green background, which you're going to be like, huh, that's weird. I don't actually push the gauges on top of the footage from the race or the ride in Dashware. I just create a generic file with this green screen in the back, which all this is this, I just call it new gauge. It's just a green color. If we double click it again, it's just a green rectangle that sits behind everything. So they sit on top of the green rectangle. This will be important when we finish the edit in Premiere Pro. But in order to have a video export, we actually have to have some video file in order for Dashware to export these gauges. So I just make this, it's called blank 2. I just created a blank video file. It's just a black video file. And we're kind of tricking Dashware into thinking that we're pushing the two together. And then, of course, the data file is the data file from the ride. Oh, important detail. This has to be a TCX file. TCX. Sauce for Strava allows you to do that. You can also just Google how to convert a fit file to a TCX file, or a GPX file to a TCX file. The important part is it ends in TCX file. Okay, so now that we've done that, we synchronize here, and this is that getting into too many details here. This is my whole ride from the day, like my whole file. This is where I used to live in San Jose, and I would ride up this road and get to, there's the course. This little segment at the very end you might recognize is the Alviso course, but I don't want to include my entire ride. See how it messes up my map? So I am synchronizing, so all it's showing is the portion of the ride that I want to show. I don't want to show the warm-up. I don't want to show those 15 or 20 minutes after the race when you're cooling down. I just want to show the race. That's all I want to show for the video. So that's why I've cropped. This is the whole ride. And it shows me going out to Alviso, and then it shows me coming back from Alviso. I don't want to show all that. I just want to show the portion where I was racing. So that's what's happening with Synchronize. And once you have everything done, I'd realize I just messed it up. You come up here and you create video. You find the location where it's being exported to. I always uncheck auto. I just want the quality to be 100, and I keep it at 1080p. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be high resolution. That'll make sense in a little bit, and I keep 60 frames per second in case I'm actually doing a 60 frame per second video. Then you click create video, and then it's done. Let's pop on over to our file structure. Okay, here we are in my active folder on my NAS. And by the way, the NAS is connected to my computer. I don't know if I mentioned this, as if it's just a local drive, like a local hard drive on my computer. This is the true for all my computers, which is really convenient. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a new folder. Now, my folder naming convention is something that has saved me for years. I started this a decade ago, but I always do year, month, day. So 25, 10, 24, underscore, and then test video. We call it whatever, Alviso number 7 or whatever it is. And that way, when you sort by name, they're automatically sorted by date, because date modified isn't always what you want. So that's my naming convention. I stand by it. I love it this way. And this is where we're going to save our Dashware file. So we have a Dashware file. We've dropped our footage in here. And so the folder ends up looking like this. We have a TCX file that we exported from Sauce for Strava or elsewhere. We have that Dashware gauges file that you can see in the background that we just exported. And then we have the actual video file. I just have one here as an example. The thing we're missing is how do we put all this together into a video? And for that, I have a template built out. I use Premiere Pro. I drop that template file in there. I'll rename it test video is what we're calling this one, and I go ahead and open that. And as that's opening, a note about Premiere Pro: if I were starting over, I probably would not lock myself into the Adobe Premiere Pro Photoshop suite of applications because it's expensive. It's a monthly subscription fee I'm kind of stuck in now. I would do DaVinci probably, because it's a pay once and have it for the rest of your life piece of software. And there's even a free version of DaVinci that has almost all of the capability of the full version of DaVinci that I've experimented with, but I just can't get away from my workflow that I'm now kind of locked into with Adobe. So quick note about choosing an NLE. Now I have a template already built out. If you're familiar with an NLE, a nonlinear video editor, you'll see I already have some assets here. The first thing I do is I come back into my folder here and I drop those two things in there. And now I have them. They live. Here they are. There's the Dashware with that green screen. And here's that example footage that I dropped in there. But something doesn't look right. Obviously, something doesn't look right here. Problem is we made that green screen Dashware file 1080. So we just have, the first thing we have to do is we just have to increase the scale of it so it fills the screen. And then we have to get rid of the green. Now I have one preset that does all of that. I've saved it here as a preset, but really all we're doing is we're changing this to 200 so it scales the entire width of the frame. And then the other thing that we're doing is we are adding a ultra key. There it is, ultra key to it. And what it ends up looking like is this right here. Lower the volume a little bit. And then this is where you sync it up. So obviously this footage doesn't match the file, so we're never going to sync it up because these two don't match. But what I would do is I would find where we're at on the course, see how the little dot is in a corner. There it is in a corner. I would find something like that and I would sync it up with the video, because now that they're on separate tracks, like you can see, you can move it around, you can reposition it so they sync up. This is the main reason why I export the Dashware gauges as a different file, so I can manipulate both. For example, if I want to include more things, let's show more things. This is my template. I drop them on top. Now, oh, we're seeing some more familiar stuff. Those blue arrows for the arrow wind direction, the finish line flag, the checkered flag. We have all this other stuff that you see in my videos. Meters to go is the big one. We're going to talk about that in just a second. In fact, we'll talk about that now. How do I do the meters to go? Everyone always asks. It's really simple, you guys. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's not actually meters to go. I hate to break down the fourth wall in the illusion that I'm doing something really fancy and actually tracking meters, but it's not. It's just a sophisticated countdown that's part of this nested sequence. So if you're not inclined to technical stuff, fast forward the next 30 seconds or so. This nested sequence that I have highlighted here is this entire gauge, and it's doing a countdown of meters to go. Let's look inside this nested sequence. Inside the nested sequence is like the square, the gray square with the background. It's the checkered flag. It's the M. It's all of that. But there's another nested sequence. What's inside that? Let's go even a layer further. All this is this thing in Premiere. Every NLE has one called time code, and it just counts the number of frames. So all it's doing is counting the number of frames. If I'm pressing the right arrow, you can see it's counting up. If I press the left arrow, it's counting down by the number of frames. Now, what I've done is I have I've reversed the speed so it goes in reverse direction. So instead of counting up, it's counting down as we progress forward. And I've manipulated the speed. In this case, it's about 21% speed. So all it's showing is a sophisticated count, or not so sophisticated countdown, that is averaging the amount of speed that we're going in meters to go. Hope that makes sense. So if we're going a faster race, I will increase the speed of that nested sequence if our average speed is higher. If we hit a climb and our average speed goes down, then I'll do the opposite, and I'll have this tick down slower because we're going slower up a climb. So I can always break up this nested sequence, and I can adjust the rate at which this counts down, but all it is a countdown. There, the secret's out.
Nice.
That's how I do the meters to go. That also obviously needs to be adjusted. That needs to be adjusted so that when we hit 0, it's at the end of the race. So this is another layer that needs to be moved and manipulated in order for it to match what you're seeing on the screen. Okay, so wrapping up, all of these things are designed so they are on different layers so I can manipulate them. So for example, if I have 360 footage, I can manipulate the 360 footage without adjusting any of these other things because the 360 footage is on its own layer. Does that make sense? If something's too loud, I can adjust just the volume of that single layer. So this is a way that I can control exactly how the edit looks. And this is the way I get it to look just like this. Kind of is like a 2 or 3 step process, but once it's all in Premiere, this is when I come in and I record my audio, and I can have a co-host on. They can record their audio on a separate track. I can share my screen and record this screen over Zoom or over Google Meet, and I can record footage with somebody who's not necessarily sitting next to me in my office. So this is my entire process summarized as quickly as possible. I realize there might be some follow-up questions. Definitely did not go into detail on any single part of this. So if you have any follow-up questions, I can talk about this stuff for hours, guys. I'm totally excited about the editing process. Drop me a comment down below. Hope this helps. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.